Welcome to Beyond the Brief. This is issue 3, also the first edition on video. So welcome to Eb Adeyeri, Global Director of Account Management at Pacvue, and my first video guinea pig. So those that are unfamiliar with Beyond the Brief, this is an opportunity to spotlight some of the brightest marketing, comms, brand people in the industry. People who I partner with as Macaulay Global Consulting, but also people that I've had the pleasure to work with and collaborate with over the years. With that in mind, I'm going to hand over to Eb and jump into question 1. So Eb, welcome. If you could give everybody a feel for your career story to date, and then a little bit about your current role.
Thank you very much, John. Thanks for inviting me to this.
Pleasure.
Always happy to talk about just the industry in general. A little bit about me. So my current role is, as John says, Global Director of Strategic Account Management. What does that mean? I look after some of our most strategic clients for Pacvue. Pacvue is bid management platform that helps brands, agencies manage their retail media across various retail media networks, Amazon and the like. But my role is very much, my story kind of goes back over 20 years. Let's just say I'm not as old as I look. I'm older than I look. I'm younger than I look.
Could be a separate poll we could run, to be fair.
My origin story goes back about 20 years. I actually studied as a chemical engineer, but I never actually practiced as one. My skills were always in 2 things: client communications and clients and client communications. So those kind of 2 areas, and that journey kind of took me across working for the Institute of Chemical Engineers as a press and PR officer. Then into Lewis Communications, where I worked with John quite closely across a number of campaigns. And one of the things that I've always prided myself on in my career is trying to stay close to trends and how they've kind of like changed and how they shape communications. At the time, social was really becoming a force within the marketing advertising world, and I had the privilege of working at Lewis, leading a lot of the digital activation on that aspect. I was there for about 6 years or so. And as I into my next role, which is I felt like I needed a stint at a big holding company. So I went into Ogilvy, again working on the digital activation team, the digital influence team. Social was becoming a big thing. Facebook campaigns were becoming a big thing. And really cut my teeth there in a really global role. So working with some really global brands there. I moved from Ogilvy into another creative role as a creative strategist. I was a strategist at We Are Social. And there was very much really honing my sort of strategic insights, like understanding what it means to respond to a client brief, and really think through specific client problems when it comes to how to communicate things. Social was still very much a part of it, but actually one of the things that was good at We Are Social was it didn't really just look at social in its own guises. It was how brands were really tapping into sort of social insight. So how could you make campaigns shareable? How could you make campaigns that people would talk about? And again, that was within global brand settings. So I worked with a couple of really big an automotive brand, worked with the financial sector services brand as well. So it really got me to understand like how global companies work in one region and apply insights into another one. And at that time, I as much as I enjoyed that, felt a sense of agencies. Maybe I need to explore something a little bit different.
Have a break.
Well, yes, a bit of a break. I went to work for a company that at the time was called Spreadfast and was then acquired and then became Chorus. And it was my first foray into the world of SaaS, software as a service, as it's called. And I had this interesting role of working with the sales team, but being able to, the software was social media management software. And I worked with a lot of the sales teams that were there and helped them tell the story of how that software was being used within marketing campaigns. And that's essentially what the role was. I was like a storyteller for them. Um, Great things about working in SaaS is I really loved that job. I got to travel a lot. I got to meet different types of people that I didn't meet normally in the agency world. But unfortunately, they had a bit of a tough financial year, and I got made redundant from that role. First time in my career that kind of like happened. That was a
Yeah.
bit of a shock to the system. But one of the things you find in those moments is how resilient you can be, and how it's
Yeah.
really important to maintain networks. And that took me into another role where I worked for Kenshu as it became Sky. I was employed as a partnerships lead, getting to work with the likes of Facebook and Amazon and Google and Apple, and just connecting how they were working with us as a SaaS company. I'll wrap this up a little bit, and I'm going on a little bit long here, but I went from there into Jellyfish, leading a big paid media team. Again, brilliant role. Started there 2 months before, 2 weeks before the pandemic, and it was my chance to actually lead a fairly large team, and that's where mentoring and coaching really kind of came into what I do and what I offer. And I I joined Pacvue after 5 years of Jellyfish, to help my current company grow in Europe, which is where I currently am now. And throughout my career, there are two things that I mentioned at the start. The ability to communicate and help people communicate, and help solve client problems, and
Yeah.
really work with clients. So that's my long short career story to date.
Amazing. And I'm going to say that. Okay, so question two, we're going to be looking at kind of change and how things have evolved. So, what would you say, Eb, has been one of the biggest drivers of change, or one of the biggest changes you've seen since you started to today?
That's a good question. The way I sort of frame that is, what's the change that what's the change in the way agencies have used technology is probably one of the an interesting thing to look at. Um, I said that I'm a lot older than I look, and when I started in my career, the fax machine was probably the biggest piece of tech that we had at the time, or the printer. I mean, I'm not that old, but the fax machine was like the biggest piece of tech. And I look that time and I look towards now, and now I see some agencies, I work with Jellyfish, and how they're using AI to create personas that they build briefs around, how they use AI to manage and optimize media campaigns. And it's completely different to what started in my career. But that's kind of the interesting thing, how that biggest change. Some things have changed a lot in terms of the sophistication of the technology, but there's some things that haven't changed at all. Some people who are really smart, who understand this is how we can use this tech better. I go back to the year 2000. How could we get press releases directly into the hands of journalists? Well, let's fax every single department, or every single area of the department. Let's figure out their fax numbers. Let's merge it in with like an Excel spreadsheet. The smart ones were always the best ones that could get ahead. 2025, how are we using ChatGPT and Claude to build a profile of our target audience, build a profile of our client, what they need, how can we prompt to kind of get that better? So there's always this discussion around technology replacing jobs, or technology replacing things, and to some degree it does evolve jobs. When I worked in social media, people that job didn't really exist in my dad's age. There's a whole industry of people now that work in social media. So the technology kinds of shifts and evolves jobs, but the smart people are the ones that really lean into the tech. I know it's a cliche to say that, but it's true. The smart people are the ones that ride the wave of the technology change and use it to deliver the value that they've always been able to deliver, whether that's insights to a client, whether that is helping manage a client relationship better, or whether that's just doing things that doing things quicker or faster. I go back to the fax example. When I was able to fax out press releases rather than printing them off and stuffing them in envelopes and getting someone's address and posting them, the fax machine made things a lot easier then. AI just makes things a lot easier now. So that's probably one of the biggest changes that I've seen in terms of how technology is being used within the agency world.
Yeah, so less of a fear, more embrace, and
Yeah,
let it
less of a
complement
fear,
it, the
more.
role.
Yeah, less of a fear, more embrace. I was listening to a podcast the other day and I heard someone say something really interesting, which is whenever they feel fearful about something, they really lean heavily into it. And they
Yeah,
use that as a signal to like learn more about it. So when they feel uncertain, they use that as a signal to learn more about it. I would say that with anyone with AI. Like if you
yeah,
feel
that's
uncertain
good
about it,
advice.
there's lots to read out there. Just get lots of advice and just embrace it.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Okay, amazing. Question three. So we're kind of looking at the agency client dynamics a little bit more. So thinking about when you have been in-house, what's how do you think in-house teams can kind of get more and optimize their relationships with consultancies and agencies?
I think in-house teams working better with their external relationships works best when they work as a partnership. Um, I think it works worst when there is this sort of tension, unhealthy tension between an in-house team and a consultancy. And what do I mean by that? Where they treat an external consultancy um, as the lowest of the low. Just do this for me. I want this done now. Come back. No, it's not right. Go back, do it again.
Mm,
That just cycles through. It doesn't create a good working relationship. The best relationships when I was on the consultancy side or even partly in-house side was where I used the word partner when they did work as a partnership. And that's where both parties had skin in the game. That doesn't necessarily mean um, financial. Sometimes it is, where it's like, if you get this result, we both share the rewards.
yeah,
We both, we will put, with an in-house team, we will put, if you get this result for us, we will open up opportunities for you in other parts of our business or in other regions. We give you referrals. Likewise, for the consultants, it's like if you bring us in and we get these results for you, you have a stake in sometimes a stake in their business, but
yeah,
it works as a partnership, and that's where it works better. And when you, as a partnership, when you're at ease with telling each other things that are uncomfortable, a brief comes in, you have the psychological safety to go back to the in-house team and say you wanted to work with a world-class partner. This is not a world-class brief.
yeah, yeah,
We
yeah,
think
yeah.
you should go back. Likewise, consultancy, in-house teams, putting their consultancy relationship and saying, what you delivered for me, or that person delivered there, was not what we agreed on. That was not great. And having those honest conversations, but I use that word psychological safety because it's really important to have those robust conversations without
Yeah.
them turning toxic.
Yeah.
Um, and I get it. In-house teams, they have their own internal dynamics as well. Sometimes the direct client that is briefing you is being put under pressure from different departments or things like that. And sometimes the external consultancy doesn't see these things.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's hard to share it all, right? Sometimes you're
it's hard to
even
share it all.
embarrassed to
It's
share
hard.
it.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. It's hard to share it all. But I think external consultancies should try and understand what the internal dynamics are of the in-house team. I always used to talk about, getting behind the brief. Like, why is this brief here? Ogilvy had a really good framework for doing that, the do brief, as it called, the David Ogilvy brief. And one of the things is like, why is this brief here? Like, what has driven the in-house team to put out
Yeah,
this brief? And external consultancies should really kind of delve into kind of that practice. Is like not just responding to the brief, but responding to like, why is this brief here? And when they start to do that, it helps them from a consultancy point of view, because it helps them not go chasing after answers that are never going to be the answer, even if that's what's written in the brief. But it just makes a better relationship, because you understand each other much better,
Yeah.
than having that toxic sort of adversarial kind of like relationship where you're butting heads all the
Yeah.
time. And so yeah, so I think, you know, if in-house teams are able to open their metaphorical doors to agencies, but likewise agencies going into those doors and understanding that sometimes the prize on the table, you need to earn it rather than just trying to take what quick dollars you can get off the table and run. So it's the whole nation's relationship. It's got to be give, it's got to be take, it's got to take time to understand.
Amazing. So I think you've probably started to answer this already, Ed, but flipping the question. So what about consultancies, agencies? How can they get the best out of their client relationships? So what can they do more of or improve in your opinion?
I think when you're a consultancy working with clients, the best thing you can do is really trying to understand where the clients are coming from, their category, turn up, show up, that you've got genuine curiosity in that client's relationship, where they are in their market, where their competitors are, just really kind of like understand them. Far too often, there are many consultancies that turn up with what they think is a ready-made answer, and they have that answer ready to go. It's like the answer to all of this must be this particular tool, or
This
this
great
particular
campaign.
strategy,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
this
yeah.
particular campaign, without really kind of digging into it. And it may be that is the answer, but the best thing that consultants do the rest of our clients is really prove that they know that client inside out, and not just as a company, as an individual. One of the things that I do in my current role, we talk a lot about stakeholder mapping, which is like, who are the person you're speaking to, but what relationships do they have in other people? Well, you know, are you buying from someone who's the person actually making the decisions? And really understanding that aspect, that's what consultants do to the best out of their clients. Listen, it's so easy to say be empathetic, but actually that's where it comes from, listening
Yeah, yeah.
from that. You know, a good example is someone gives you a brief and you think this is a bit unrealistic. Like, what is the metrics behind this brief? I've seen briefs that have come in and the sole rationale for that brief is the person giving me the brief needs to get something out to get a promotion. So
Right, okay.
irrespective of the business results that you get back, you look at the brief, you're like, you want to increase your ROAS by 2x, 20x in 3 months, and you've never done this in the past. Like, this doesn't seem weird. What's the brief? They're like, yeah, no, we need to do that. Then trying to understand, actually, this scenario here was like, the brief was really about that person's internal dynamics.
Yeah,
So
okay.
really understanding that. And once you understand that, you're like, okay, I get it. We won't be able to do that business relations, but we can do this, and that will still get you
Yeah.
like the promotion that you so desire and stuff like that. So understanding where the brief's coming from, understanding the clients, listening to them, really deeply listening to them, what they're saying, and the whole the management mantra is like active listening, as it were.
Yeah.
Really doing a lot of that. That's what I think that consultancies do to get the best out of their clients.
Okay. Cool. Okay. So, moving on a little bit. Fifth question. So, what's would you say has caught your eye in your industry at the moment? So, in your ad tech space, what's kind of yeah grabbed your attention?
Yeah, it's a bit of a cliche to kind of roll out the old AI trope, because that seems to be the thing that goes everywhere. But some of the use cases that I'm seeing of more internal use
Okay.
of AI, and how so companies are using call recordings, call logs, mixed together with some external like company reports, mixed together with performance insights, and then built GPTs, internal GPTs, and then how they're using that to save time, to understand what a client is doing, things that would have taken months
Yeah.
of internal meticulous research, things that would have taken months of speaking to clients, building like personas
Yeah.
that take like a few hours now,
Yeah.
and help you know what you didn't know. So, you know,
Okay.
I ran I had to deliver my new role, a report to a client, a global client, like what has been happening on this account for the last 6 months. I'd only been at the company like 3 months, but
Yeah.
taking the amount of information, and just to be clear, a lot of GPTs, I'm seeing a lot of enterprise use of things like ChatGPT and Gemini, where things are they're built off, so they don't go out into the open web, so they're sort of trained as a company version of that GPT there,
Yeah.
so you're not sharing it out there. But having to use that particular tool to go through reams and reams and reams of data, call conversations, things like Slack channel downloads,
Yeah. Yeah.
emails, you build up a picture. I remember building up this picture and sending it to someone, was like, so I need to summarize to this client what happened in the last 6 months. Is this kind of a good summary of it? They're like, wow, it's like you were here the whole time.
That is
So
amazing.
the ability to do, but then the other thing as well is helping you learn about things that you didn't quite know. And you know, the art of prompting AIs is such a really powerful thing. You know, asking simple questions and then asking other questions, and then, you know, with AI you have to validate everything,
Yeah.
but it starts to help you uncover things that you're like, I didn't know that, and now I know a little bit more
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
it,
And
and
you
now I know a little
can
bit more
dig a bit
about it.
more. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I know a bit more about it. I was speaking to someone the other day, and a fantastic analogy came into my mind. Remember the Matrix,
Yeah.
when Neo gets into the seat and he's like, I need to learn how to fly this helicopter, and they put something in his head, like, and he's like,
Yeah.
I have now to know an helicopter. Not quite like that, but you're like, I need to know how this thing works, or this particular type of feature, or this particular tool works. How does this work? And it's you question it, question it, question it. And then after a
Yeah.
while, you get a pretty good idea of like, so this is how it works. And you feel like you're more knowledgeable on it. Has to be validated, of course, because
Yeah.
I'm sure
Or it could have been a
if
very embarrassing report.
well, all that, or Neo couldn't actually fly a helicopter, he could only fly it in his head.
Yeah. 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 No, that's cool. And actually, yes, you know, you're obviously not the first person to re-reference AI on
I know, and I won't
everything
be
and
the last.
anything, everything and anything. Yeah, but I think internal use is interesting actually, and it's not something I'm so afraid with. So that's a really cool example.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right, okay, to wrap then, um, this is one that so far everybody's loved and tried to duck, but obviously you won't, Eb.
I'll try.
So just yeah, just kind of a mistake, or you know, an example of mistake, example of a bit of a cock up, basically, something that you've done
Hmm.
maybe wrong, or you wish you'd maybe done a little bit differently. What can you give us an example of that? Because I always think it's uh, good to good to reflect, and there's usually a learning that you can take from that, and I think it's good for people to hear those.
Yeah. Oh God. Failing, a funny failing or something. I think one that does come to mind. I talked about how I've always tried to keep on the cutting edge of the industry or different sectors that I've been in, and I've always been very happy to go up on stage and someone asks me to give a talk or give an anecdote or sit on a panel. Always happy to do that, and always felt like I know enough about a subject to kind of talk about it. And I remember going on this particular panel. Actually, no, it wasn't a panel. I actually had to talk to an audience. It was a talk. It was a sort, it was probably like a 10-minute talk.
So
Um,
no hiding places at all then.
no hiding places at all. And going through it, and I think the time the topic was around, it was a data related subject as well, and I was told this audience, you know, they're very sort of very nascent. Yeah, you don't need to go too deep on a subject. So I probably didn't prepare enough for that. I was like, yeah, I got it. I've read enough blogs, I've read enough articles about this. Go up on stage, very airy flary topic there. One guy who knows a lot about the whole subject, asked me various questions, and
They got the wrong
the,
guy on stage, is this
yeah,
basically?
yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. It was a bit embarrassing. At the time, you're like, oh God, yeah, you don't want to, you know. I clearly didn't know as much as him. That was very, very clear.
Yeah.
But I knew more than other people, which is what I
Yeah.
thought was being pitched at. I guess the learning from that is, always be prepared to kind of show your vulnerability on stage about what you do and what you don't know.
Yeah.
And always be prepared, and always be, reassure yourself the fact that there's always going to be someone who knows more than you, no matter how smart you think you are or how accomplished you think you are. There's always someone out there. So yeah, that's probably put paid to my stand-up career, but yeah, that was fine.
And you never spoke on big data again.
I never spoke on big data again, or even little
Hilarious.
data, any
A
kind of
little bit,
data.
anything. Yeah. No, that's good. That's a really good learning, actually. I think that's a great lesson. Okay. Thank you very much, buddy. That was amazing. So thank you for being
Pleasure.
my first video guinea pig, and that's issue 3.
Thanks very much.